So I'm sure most of you will be aware at this point, about 2 days ago there was an update implemented into Skyblock that changed farming. And when I say it changed farming, for innocent farmers it didn't really do anything. However, for those evil farmers who were doing things that they shouldn't have been, now they have a pretty substantial issue. First of all, you now can't benefit from farming fortune on your private island. And they've also disabled teleport pads on the garden. Now these teleport pads were pretty integral for those players who weren't doing what they should be doing. You see, for those people abusing the quote-unquote F11 glitch, it's something they can't really live without. So what does this mean? Because of the sheer amount of people who were abusing this bug, or the mechanic let's say, there is now a huge decrease in the amount of people farming in the garden. And this is evident when we take a look at a few items' prices. For instance, overgrown grass, this is what gives them mossy reforge. 1 day ago, overgrown grass was 109 million coins. Today, it's 77 mil. 1 day ago, a dedication 4 book was 184 million coins. Today, it's 89 million coins. 2 days ago, just before the change, this netherwart hole that I have right here was worth 105 million coins. Now the cheapest equivalent hole is 37.5 mil. Pimento armor has absolutely dropped through the floor, it's in freefall. A level 100 legendary elephant is 25 mil. Now of course, there's way more examples. But what does this prove? Now before we go any further, you should subscribe to the channel, become part of the 24%, there's no reason not to. Also, you should join the Discord server, it's linked in the description of every single video. If you want to buy carries or become a carrier for Dungeons or Slayers, we got you covered too. Well, on average, I'd say majority of the farming items have probably dropped between 40 to 50% in price. Now this is due to the amount of people that were F11 in and now can't. Basically, people panic selling. Not only panic selling, but people who now have no use for all of the farming items are just selling up. You see, because farming is so boring and mind-numbing and repetitive, understandably people want to take shortcuts. Not in the correct way, but people still want to take shortcuts. However, this insane drop in price of pretty much everything really shows how many people weren't farming legitimately. And I see some people, right, saying that macroing doesn't affect the economy. And I know F11ing isn't technically macroing, but it might as well be. And honestly, I can't understand how them people can actually believe that. Because here is absolute proof. Don't get me wrong, this is a good thing, because it's stopping a lot of people from doing what they shouldn't have been doing. However, if people really still want to macro and AFK farming, they can do. This doesn't stop macroers, this just stops people from abusing the F11 glitch. However, this at the same time has sort of affected people who aren't doing anything wrong. Personally, if I was farming, I'd want to watch something while I'm farming. I wouldn't just want to farm. If it came to the point where I had to farm, I mean, I would get bored of just constantly looking at sugarcane falling. For those people who have multiple monitors and have a video on one monitor and Minecraft open on the other monitor in full screen, you know that's completely fine. You're there watching a YouTube video at the same time you're monitoring Minecraft. I mean, this has affected those people, and they're not doing anything wrong. And not even that, you don't even have to have 2 monitors. If someone's got Minecraft open and they have 1 monitor, on their phone they could be watching a YouTube video. Once again, it's just affected those people as well. I don't know, I feel like it's a good change in a sense of what they're trying to do is stop people from F11ing, but at the same time it's kind of affecting a lot of regular people who were just farming and watching a YouTube video at the same time. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of people have sold up because they were F11ing, now they can't F11, they have no use for the farming gear. I guess other people who have had coins invested into farming gear might not even be farming, or maybe they are farming. They've probably panic sold because they've seen the prices dropping so much. These holes at this point are cheap by anyone's standards, and honestly, once the market stabilizes and people get over the fact that they can't F11 and they have to farm legitimately or macro, don't macro, well that's their only other alternative if they want to AFK farm, which you shouldn't do. Regardless of that, they're probably going to start buying these holes again. I'd say do your own research, but it might not be a bad time to invest. Now, if you're a relatively new player, and maybe you've been considering getting into farming for a little while, now is probably the best time to do so. First of all, there's going to be way less people farming, so if you're looking to get medals in the Jacobs contest, then it's actually going to be quite substantially easier just because there's less people farming. Also, a setup that you may have paid, let's say, 200 to 300 million coins for yesterday or the day before, you're now probably gonna only have to spend around about 50% of those coins to get exactly the same items. And there's no catch. The value of crops isn't gonna go down a lot, and that's purely because of the Garden 1.5 update. That basically prevents them from going down too much. If worst came to worst, you could sell your crops to the NPC and not really lose too much more money. Honestly, sometimes you actually make more profit selling to the NPC anyway, which is of course good because the price is set and not malleable. Now, not only was the change implemented to, well, I guess stop people from cheating, it's obvious that it's some sort of an attempt to sort of steady inflation or stop it from, getting out of hand, which it already is. Now, what's really happened on the back of these changes is pretty much anything regarding or relating to farming has dropped in price. However, in terms of inflation, the damage is already done, even if macroing was to stop right now. Yes, scrolls are definitely decreasing in price, still over 400 mil each though, like, that's insane. You see, the thing about farming is, obviously we know it is incredibly boring and repetitive, but it's one of the only incredibly boring and repetitive skills that just requires you to hold a button down and just basically hold 2 more buttons down. You don't need to stop and chop a tree. You don't need to fish up a sea creature and kill it. All of the spawns for these crops are already predicted. They're all going to spawn in a sugarcane, a straight line for netherwarts, exactly where you planted it. You see, when this change was implemented, the admins said that this is basically to try and get people to engage in farming more, along with stopping people from cheating. But my question would be, what is there to engage with? Like, do they want people to get 2 inches away from the monitor just so they can see that netherwart speaks absolutely smashed into oblivion? Also exciting. Is it gonna break this time? Oh yeah, it is, just like it did the previous 10 million times. If a skill has perks that you can benefit from, i.e. if that's coins, XP, or the ability to access certain items, then people are going to do the skill. If the skill is incredibly boring, then people are going to find a way to make it less boring. And if that's not really concentrating too much on what they're doing, and watching a video at the same time, then I don't really see the problem with that if the skill is so boring. So maybe the problem isn't people playing Skyblock and the people who aren't quote-unquote playing it correctly, and maybe the issue is that farming is too boring. Ultimately, with the type of game that Skyblock is, it's intended to, have a bit of grindiness to it. You shouldn't be given everything immediately, but there's absolutely nothing to farming whatsoever. Anyway, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.